Hey guys, John Rettinger from TechnoBuffalo here. There are a lot of really good smartphones on the market right now running very different, fully featured and capable operating systems. I think two of the most interesting on the market right now, the Palm Pre Plus for Verizon Wireless and the HTC-built Nexus One, also called the Google phone, which is unlocked and can be run on T-Mobile's 3G network or AT&T's Edge. The Palm Pre Plus right now is going to set you back $149 after a 2-year contract and mail-in rebates. Nexus One runs anywhere from $529 unlocked about to $180 subsidized from T-Mobile. So this versus video, we're going to cover a ton of categories, but in the interest of brevity and not making this an hour video, some things are going to have to be cut out. We're going to cover specs, browser, keyboard, navigation, app stores, notifications, multitasking, and a few intangibles as we go. So let's talk about some of the more salient specs and the things that I think you need to know. From a weight standpoint, the Palm Pre Plus, you're looking at 4.89 ounces. The Nexus One comes in at 4.59. Form factor, you've got a slide-out QWERTY keyboard on the Palm Pre Plus. That's sort of that River Rock look and feel. The Nexus One has that slate form factor, very thin, and all the typing is done on screen, as we'll see in our typing test in just a minute. So speaking of the screens, the Palm Pre Plus has a 320 by 480 resolution, whereas the Nexus One has a 480 by 800 resolution, which really takes advantage of all those pixels on its 3.7-inch screen. Let's go ahead and get to the test. The first thing we're going to cover are browser. I use the browsers quite a bit, and I always lead into my versus videos with a browser head-to-head. So we're going to load TechnoBuffalo.com on Wi-Fi. Both devices are on the same Wi-Fi network, so there shouldn't be a difference in network speed here. We're going to load a site that has been put on here in both, so images have been cached. So think of it as a real-world test of a site that you visit on a regular basis. So enough of me jibber-jabbering. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll load them up on each. Okay, we'll go ahead and push these at the same time and get started. So the Palm Pre the Palm Pre Plus is about a 600 megahertz processor compared to the 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor in the Nexus One, which is actually the fastest smartphone processor that's widely available to consumers. And right here you can see the difference in speed. Nexus One's already done. The Palm Pre Plus just finishes a few seconds later. And really all of my tests, the Nexus One, especially on Wi-Fi, comes in faster. I think that's just due to the improved hardware. So let's take a look at the browser. Both now feature native multi-touch support. The Nexus One was endowed with that earlier in the week. Let's see how it works here. Your famous pinch and zoom features, and it goes very fast, almost no delay. As my fingers move up, it adjusts itself accordingly. You can double tap, zoom in on an area, and of course, landscape. Everything works there as well. Then rotate it back. Neither of these have native flash support, so you're sort of looking at apples to apples type of comparison. Let's go back to the Palm Pre. And one last thing I want to mention on the Nexus One, as I scroll, I don't get any sort of checker pattern. It can keep up with my finger scrolling, and as I stop, it'll sort of have a physics engine that'll keep it scrolling depending on how fast my finger's moving. We'll take a look at things on the Palm Pre Plus. Goes very fast, but you get a little bit of a checkerboard pattern. It goes away pretty quickly, but it is there. As far as multi-touch, very quick. There's a small delay between when your fingers sort of expand and come back, but certainly not bad at all. You can definitely do the same sort of tapping features. As far as multi-touch browsers go, I think these are probably two of the three best on the market right now. You can't go wrong with either of these browsers. They're very full-featured. However, the faster processor on the Nexus One makes browsing a little bit more enjoyable and a bit more pleasurable because things do load much faster. And you'll see that faster processor sort of take advantage of everything as we continue the tests. But perhaps Wi-Fi was just an anomaly. Let's test these things on their own 3G network. So we're going to test this on Verizon's 3G and T-Mobile's 3G. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera and come back once I've turned Wi-Fi off. Alright, so we've got Wi-Fi turned off on both of these. I have 3 bars of Verizon's 3G EVDO, and I coincidentally have 3 bars of T-Mobile's 3G data. So it should be a pretty fair test. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to load the same page, TechnoBuffalo.com, and see how these things come out. It's like I tapped the Palm Pre Plus just a second later, something to definitely keep in mind as we check load speeds. So it looks like they're showing content at just about the same time. Nexus One is almost done, actually. You can see that yellow bar across the top. Okay, the Nexus One is done, and the Palm Pre Plus is still going. You can see that sort of blue circle fill up. And it's still going, almost done. I think this is again a result of the faster processor. T-Mobile's network speed, at least test for test, is not faster than Verizon's network, but the increased speed in the processor renders pages so much quicker. I mean, it looks like the network speed is so much faster because of the processor. And the Palm Pre Plus is still loading. So you can clearly see a difference in the browser speed. I think that's equated exclusively to the beefy Qualcomm Snapdragon processor in the Nexus One. So definitely the edge goes to the Nexus One as far as the browser. So multi-touch I think is a little bit better, and loading speed. So let's go ahead and check out the keyboard. How do you input text on these things? Well, they both do it in very different ways. We'll go ahead and open up a Notes application or a sort of text entry on the Palm Pre Plus and show you what the keyboard looks like. Alright, opening up a memo application here. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom down. So here we've got a blank memo on its on-screen QWERTY keyboard, and I will try typing "this is a test" and see how it works out. And I have had this phone for a few weeks, so I've gotten relatively used to the keyboard. Go ahead and zoom out just a bit so you can see me do this. And let's get started. This is a test, came out pretty accurate. Let's try one more word, Palm Pre. So not bad. I have gotten a little more accurate as I'm using it. It is missing sort of a fully functional autocorrect, which comes to be very annoying. I've got relatively big fingers. You can see as I put them over one key, sort of almost covers four. It's definitely a usable QWERTY keyboard as far as a physical one goes, but it's not one of the best out there. If you have very big fat fingers, I tend to have larger hands, you may have some trouble typing on this. I definitely recommend going in and giving it a shot. The Pixie, I think, has a little bit of a more usable keyboard. We'll cover that in a later video series. So the moral being on the Palm Pre Plus, it's a usable physical keyboard, but the operating system is missing some sort of rudimentary autocorrect features that I would like. I also got used to double tapping on the spacebar for a period. There's a period button right next door to that. It's personal preferencing. For me, I miss it. You might not, but I definitely wanted to bring it to your attention. Let's take a look at the Nexus One and see how that handles text entry. That uses a complete on-screen keyboard. So go ahead and open up, say, their memo application, and we'll see how it looks. We'll open up a messaging. We'll open up a new message. Okay, so this is, of course, a on-screen keyboard. You can use it in either landscape or portrait. Here is what the landscape keyboard looks like. Go and rotate it off to the side, or rotate it off to the other side. And you can get a sense of what the portrait looks like. We will try both, and I'll start out typing "this is a test," and I'll write Google Nexus One just as I did with the last one. I'll zoom out just a little bit so I don't make you guys blind. And you can see that the autocorrect immediately came into effect. If I hit spacebar, it will correct it. So this is a teat, a bit accidental, but the autocorrect came right in as far as other mistakes. Not completely accurate, but not bad either. If I want to double tap, I do get that period. Let's try Google Nexus One. So bits of mistakes there. Something I think you'd have to get used to. Keyboard to keyboard, I'm starting to prefer the on-screen keyboard despite my inaccuracy of the Nexus One, but the Palm Pre Plus is a nice alternative. Go ahead and turn it sideways, and we'll keep typing. I'll try that same thing one more time. This is a test of the Google Nexus One. So not so accurate there either. Big keyboard doesn't lend itself to accuracy. One interesting thing that this does have, and I demonstrated in a previous video, is another way to input text, and that is text to speech. So go ahead and hit that and actually say what you want it to say, and it will type it right in there. It does do it pretty well. This does have a spot on the keyboard actually meant for smiley faces and emoticons. So go ahead and tap that, and you can sort of pull up a list of them. So you got whatever you want. Happy, sad, whatever the rest of those things mean. You do have an option. So I'm not going to call a winner here on this test. It's going to come down to personal preference. I was a bit more accurate on the Pre-Plus's keyboard, but I preferred the on-screen bigger keyboard of the Nexus One. So this one I'm going to call it a draw, and I think you're going to have to decide the winner depending on which one you like more. So we're going to move on to navigation. Both of these things handle navigation a bit differently. Let's take a look first at the Palm Pre-Plus. So unlock it, slide to unlock. And we're here on the main home screen. You might think that there's a lot of wasted space here. You get a row of icons across the bottom that are customizable. You can pull up the menu icon, the launcher, and you can scroll and see the different choices, and you can move these around in any order that you like. Now, there aren't really many physical buttons on the Nexus One. You do have a gesture area right here. On the Palm Pre. On the initial Palm Pre, there was a button. That button's gone, replaced with a touch-sensitive LED. You can see it as I wave my finger over it and saw it light up. And then if you tap that, that'll bring up sort of your open windows. I don't have any right now, and it also serves as a gesture area for going back and forth in web pages or bringing up the quick launcher, as you can see right there. Let's go ahead and open up a card, and I'll show you what it looks like. We'll open up a web browser, and we'll open up, say, a Twitter application. And you can see right here, this will handle multitasking very well. I can tap that, open up Twitter, and that'll go ahead and launch for me. And it'll handle both at the same time, which really makes for a very enjoyable experience. I'm a big fan of WebOS. I think this handles multitasking probably better than any phone out there. There have been tests run where it's had actually 50 programs opened at once, and they all work sort of very well and without many hiccups. So if I want to go to the web page, I can just tap it. If I want to go back to the deck of card feature, go ahead and tap that button down below, and I can navigate right on over to the deck of cards. Now if I want to close something, I just swipe it up, and that is now closed and no longer using system memory. I can shut down everything. Same thing for phone, whatever you like. Everything on the device is treated as its own card, so you really have control over what you're using. So let's take a look at navigation on the Nexus One. Slide to unlock. Seems to be a pretty standard theme. So you give a bit more customization, I'd say, with the Nexus One. You've got 5 home screens. Go ahead and scroll over to all of them. And if you want to jump from one home screen to the next, you can go ahead and tap on those buttons in the bottom left or right. You get sort of a deck and cards feature that we saw on the Palm Pre. You pick the screen you want, and you jump right back to it. You have the ability to customize really anything you want on the home screen. So I've got a widget right across the top that shows me my network connections. If I tap and hold down, I can pick other widgets. And there are some pretty good ones to choose from. And you can download many, many more from the Android Marketplace. We'll go back. You can put folders, change your wallpapers. They got these live wallpapers. You can see in the background it's actually moving. Or you can put a contact directly onto the home screen. Navigation is done pretty much with your finger. There is a trackball here. I don't use that much. It's mostly flick scrolling, pinching and zooming, and that sort of thing for the navigation. It is very smooth and a really nice, seamless experience. I personally enjoy sort of the fun of WebOS and the ability to throw cards away and launch them, but they both handle multitasking. And let me show you how the Nexus One handles that. So if I go ahead and hold down the home button, pulls up this bar of open applications. So messaging is what I had open when I was showing you the keyboard. The browser we had during the last test, I can jump to either one of those and I'll immediately be there. And it handles multitasking quite nice. It doesn't let you open as many as you want. I believe it's got a limit of 5 applications, but you can jump through and pick things very easily. Go back to messaging, and there I am without any sort of delay. One thing that I don't like about navigation on this phone are these touch-sensitive bottom buttons across the bottom. They are not so accurate and don't respond very well to touch. If I use sort of my finger and I tap, they don't always work. You have to sort of sometimes hold it down to get it to function a little bit better. It doesn't happen all the time, but definitely as you use the device, you will notice it has, I think, a bit of an annoyance. So let's go ahead and move on to the app stores. They both have their sort of own app catalogs or app distribution centers. The Palm Pre Plus has an app catalog. There aren't many applications in it now as we speak, but Palm is really pushing heavy developers and developers incentives. And with the launch of this on Verizon Wireless, it now has 2 carriers. It's getting a lot more interest from devs, so you should see plenty more things on here. It's got a pretty nice look and feel to it. It's nice and smooth. I'm running this, again, just over 3G network. Things that you would expect to be on here: Pandora, Twitter clients, messaging clients, they're all here. This can handle 3D gaming just as the Nexus One can, but sort of there's not that much available as far as content. You can find some games, whereas say on the Android marketplace you'd find 10 or 11 different applications that may do Twitter or whatever you're looking for. On the Palm Pre and their really catalog, you're going to find maybe 1 or 2. So of course Android has a fantastic app store. We're going to open that up here, called Android Marketplace. You can go through and view just thousands and thousands and thousands of applications, the majority of which are free. If you have to pick sort of app store to app store, you're going to be hard pressed to beat the Android Marketplace when you put these two head to head, just based on the bevy of free applications and the content that's available. You know, next year at this time, Palm may have very well caught up and it could be a drop, but this one clearly has to go to Android. And that's true of any Android device, not just the Nexus One. So let's talk about notifications and how it handles notifications. Well, they both do it very differently. The Nexus One, for example, and really all Google phones, have notifications up top via this notifications bar. I go ahead and pull that down. See, I've got a few emails right there, and go ahead and tap it, and it'll launch it for me. I can swipe that up, and they go away, and I get notifications across the top and bottom. Right here on the Palm Pre Plus, you get notifications that'll show up right at the bottom. Let me show you what those look like. Okay, so I have a text message that just came through here, and I've got that little icon in the bottom right. Now if I had a new email, that would be an envelope, and that'll show up really anywhere I am. If I go ahead and tap it, it'll tell me what it is. So I've got a text message from myself, Jonathan Rettinger. I can tap it and view it, or I can swipe it away. And if there were multiple notifications, they would all sort of show up right there. So I'll go ahead and swipe that away, and it's gone. I could go right up to the application if I had tapped it, but I like the swiping. It's sort of a fun, sort of enjoyable experience for me. I don't know why. It's very satisfactory to just swipe something away and see it go. So when it comes down to sort of the intangibles of both devices, this is where things get tricky. I prefer WebOS as an operating system, but I prefer the hardware on the Nexus One. If I had to pick one of these two devices to use on a daily basis, I'd have to side with the Nexus One. I think that the processor really gives it an edge in almost everything that you do, from browser speed to looking at pictures, to contact navigation, to scrolling, to everything. It's just an edge solely based on processor. If the Palm Pre Plus had a bit faster processor and a little more horsepower, I think it would be a very easy decision for me to side with the Palm Pre Plus, just because I enjoy the operating system a bit more. Android's very full featured, and I think I could use it every day and be pretty happy. So this one, again, going to come down to your choice. See where you get reception for both. If you get good reception for either, I'd be hard pressed to not recommend the Nexus One, which coincidentally will be coming to Verizon in the coming months. So if you've been holding out for a new phone, you might want to try and hold out just a bit longer. Anyway, I know it's got a bit long-winded, so thank you for sticking with me. I am John Rettinger from TechnoBuffalo with a head-to-head comparison video for you of the Palm Pre Plus and the Google Nexus One. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.